بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى أصحابه وأتباعه أجمعين. The first thing they mention is reminding the students of knowledge is the most important thing, which is al-ikhlas, which is sincerity. The second thing they mention is the benefits and the most beloved action to Allah, which is seeking knowledge. And lastly, they mention an introduction to the book or the topic that is being studied. So we'll touch on these three things quickly, starting with the third thing, that is we're going to study Kitab al-Siyam, which is the book of fasting, mainly on the Hanbali method. We're going to read from Rawd al-Murbi', but many masail will be out of Rawd al-Murbi'. We're going to study a number of masail that are contemporary masail like masail like sighting the moon, masail like using toothpaste while fasting, masail like hayd and fasting, intention and fasting, smell like food while fasting, does it affect the fast? And then maybe even some rules of Taraweeh if we finish the book of Siyam. So we're going to use all the Murbi', many masail from outside of all the Murbi'. So sometimes I'll read the Arabic text, and other times I'll just mention the message that's upcoming. And you mostly explain in English. If there's anything mentioned in Arabic, I'll translate it. And sometimes I don't translate it. It's not the best kind of affects everyone. Used mostly for the students' knowledge. Then secondly, we'll touch on very quickly the virtues of seeking knowledge. Many people actually students of knowledge فإني لا أحدثكم بما لا تعلمون وإنما أذكركم ما تعلمون. So from the virtues of seeking knowledge, we mentioned two things. The first thing being the hadith said, من سلك طريقا يلتمس فيه علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة. So here there's two things we're going to focus on mainly in this hadith. The first thing is من سلك طريقا. The word hadith, the word in the hadith, طريقا. Whoever treads a path to seek knowledge. So in the ilm of usul, see this is a nakira في سياق الإثبات تعم الأوصال. Meaning that whoever treads any path, whatever it may be to seek knowledge. So obviously the best path is obviously to attend the lessons of the ulama. Then the second thing, and then after that, to knowledge through books. And another way is to lectures, and just like this. All of it would fall into a path of seeking knowledge, the result of which Allah says He will make the path to Jannah easy for the person. The second thing in the hadith is the word من سلك طريقا يلتمس. يلتمس in Arabic means merely just anything to seek knowledge. Anything to seek knowledge for that person. So any means that he uses to seek any knowledge, Allah will make the path to Jannah easy for you. The last thing we mentioned of the virtues of seeking knowledge is something amazing. Mentioned Allah Adam tells the Malaika, where He says that He taught Adam alayhi salam the names of things. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Allah put these things in front of the angels, and He said to the angels, tell me, that's the first point to focus, tell me what these things are. And the angel said, سُبْحَانَكَ لَا عِلْمَ لَنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَلِيمُ الْحَكِيمُ. They said, Ya Allah, we have no knowledge at all. What are these things? In fact, you are the most knowledgeable, the most high, the most wise. And then Allah tells Adam alayhi salam, Ya Adam, Allah tells Adam alayhi salam, O Adam, you informed him of these things. So the Mufassirin say the first part of the verse, Allah tells the Malaika to tell me these things. And the second part of the verse, Allah tells Adam alayhi salam, tell them. Allah tells Adam alayhi salam, tell them, you tell them these things. You tell them the names of these things. And in that, Adam alayhi salam was put into the position of a teacher. So he was given, so the Mufassirin say he was given precedence and preference over the Malaika on the basis of knowledge. That's the amazing thing of knowledge. Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, Muhanna says, Imam Ahmed, that he said that the best thing a person could do is to seek knowledge if he had sincere intention. So he was asked, what is the sincere intention? He said, a person who seeks knowledge, seeking ignorance from himself and from others. That's a sincere intention. Imam Ahmed said it's obligatory on a person to seek knowledge of those things with which he can implement his deen. So he was asked like what? So he said everything that a person needs to complete the wajib actions of his religion. So then they said to him, so that's basically everything in the religion. So he said, no, mainly the salah and fasting and the zakah and these things. Lastly, we mention quickly the aspect of ikhlas. The aspect of ikhlas. The ulama mentioned, this is, we're just going to mention an aspect in fiqh. We're going to mention an aspect in fiqh. Hanbali fuqaha, one of the most, like one of the madhahib mentioned the most ahkam related to intention during ibadah. So what Hanbali madhab, what the fuqaha Hanabali say, the intention, they divide it into three categories. Then there's a fourth category, and then there's a fifth category. So the first three categories, they say this falls into intention. This falls into sincere, correct intention. The fourth category is incorrect, insincere intention. And the fifth category is a correct intention, but it is an intention where a person has less reward. So the first category, the highest level of sincerity and highest level of perfect intention, they say is when a person doesn't actually intending solely the pleasure of Allah. He doesn't intend any reward from Allah. He just intends the pleasure of Allah. They say this is the highest form of intention in ikhlas. Then they mention a narration that's probably not authentic, where they say Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, الإخلاص سر من سري استودعته قلب من أحب من عبادي. That ikhlas is a secret from the secrets of Allah that he has protected and put in the heart of the slave that he loves. So they say this is the first level. The second level of intention, they say, is when a person does an action and he seeks the reward in the next one. So they say this is less, because the first person just wanted to do it solely for the pleasure of Allah and solely because Allah commanded. This person, he wants something in return and he does it seeking and a reward in the hereafter. Obviously, there's exceptions to these things you're going to come across in the end when we come across to the masail of i'tikaf, and then they mention like whoever performs tarawih in Ramadan here, iman and ihtisab, with faith in Allah and expecting, hoping a reward in Allah. So there's exceptions to many of these qawaid or there's these principles that the Fuqaha mentioned. The last level of ikhlas, they say, is a person who does the action seeking a benefit from Allah, a reward from Allah, but a worldly kind of reward. Like if you do an action, or you do dhikr in the morning and evening adhkar, then you'll be protected, or you'll get rizq or something like that. If you charity, you get more in return, but more, also including more in this world. So they say that's type of intention. The third one, and they say this counts as ikhlas as well. Then they say, other than these three, anyone who does an action having an intention other than these three, they say this is incorrect intention. They say it's riyah. The fifth category is they say a person who does an action with a correct intention, but along with it, he's got another intention. Like they give examples, like what they say, if a person travels for Hajj, he's got a sincere intention, but he also intends to see different countries. So they say there's no need to have this intention because he's going to travel anyway and see the country. So just have a pure intention. Or a person who fasts. Obviously, this is secondly, a person who fasts with the intention to like lose weight. So you're going to lose weight anyway. Most people say in the past we lose weight. It's not there. It's just a thing that's going to happen naturally. It's not an intention. But in the case where intention is there, then it loses the reward, but it's a correct intention. So Allah mentioned other things. It's called tashriq bin niyyah, other things. Al-Ghazali, Ibn Taymiyyah, alayhi rahmatullah, and others mention similar things, but that's when we speak about, inshallah, at some point in the rules of intention. So lastly, then, Sengal started the book. So it's Kitab al-Siyam, which is the chapter of fasting. So some ulama call it Kitab al-Sawm, others say Kitab al-Siyam. So Kitab al-Sawm and Siyam, while they both translate to fasting in English, some of the linguists make a difference between the two. So this is Siyam, I think it's Ibn Hilal al-Askari. They say that Sawm is to make an intention to avoid certain things. But it also means the person avoids certain things without an intention. Because Allah says, quoting Maryam alayhi salam, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا. It took an oath to Allah to have a sawm, to have a fast. And it was a fast to prevent herself from speaking. It is one of the types of fasting, according to the Bani Israel. So they say, this is Ahlul Lugha, they say that sawm means imsak. It means to prevent oneself from something, can include intention and no intention, while siyam specifically for intention. But this is based on mas'ala, the linguistic mas'ala, of whether they are synonyms in Arabic. If they are synonyms in Arabic. And based on this mas'ala, we study in usul, in opening chapters of usul, the introductions. Based on this mas'ala, fuqaha say when you do nikah or transactions, you have to say certain words. It has to be in Arabic, like you say, قبلتها, or تزوجتها, or you say بعت واشتريت. These are specific words to indicate I'm married, or I bought this thing, or I sold this thing. Those who say you do not have to have specific words, they say that it is based on the fact that they are synonyms in Arabic. And we know how many times they do not say the synonyms in Arabic. So a common example would be like the word sword, which is a safe in Arabic. Another word would be a muhannad, but it would translate as sword as well. But they say this muhannad was made in India, which is in Arabic Hind, so it was named muhannad. So there's the same translation, same meaning, it refers to the same thing, but because it's made in India, the name changed. So there's a slight difference. Okay, so then going into the book, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. كتاب الصيام لغة مجرد الإمساك يقال للساكت صائم. So they say it's merely to prevent oneself from doing something. And one of the other meanings of siyam, Ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah, I know how they say imsak. Ibn Taymiyyah also said that it means it basically means stillness. So he says it's connected to salah in many ayat in the Quran. So he says salah is doing a movement towards the obedience and pleasure of Allah, and fasting is to stop yourself, to have stillness from something in order to achieve the pleasure of Allah. And he also says from the meaning of siyam, is sabr, patience. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that to fast صوم شهر الصبر وثلاثة أيام من كل شهر يأكل صوم كامل. So the meaning of this hadith is whoever fasts the month of Sabr, which is the month of Ramadan, the 3 days of every month, and that equals to fasting. Fasting is all right. This hadith is narrated by Ibn Hibban. And it's also narrated as the verse Allah wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah. It's narrated from Mujahid, where he says sabr means here it means siyam, So the fuqaha say the meaning of siyam is imsakun bin-niyyah, is to prevent yourself from eating, drinking, those sort of things, which we'll talk about later, inshallah. But it's with an intention, and it's in a specific time. Zamanin muayyan means shakhsin makhsus, from a specific type of person. We'll mention later who's the type of person. Like we mentioned, it has to be a Muslim, it has to be a person who's baligh, etc. And then they say Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fasted 9 months of Ramadan. وصام رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم 9 رمضانات. Okay, so now the word Ramadan, the meaning of Ramadan, a few meanings mentioned for the word Ramadan. Ramadan means severe heat. Ramadan means severe heat. They also say a fasting person, when he fasts from food and drink, and especially drink, then he gets thirsty in his throat. This causes heat. It causes the heat inside of his body. So with that, it also fits the meaning of Ramadan of heat. Then they also say Ramadan, meaning it also means heat and to burn something. So they say that Ramadan, because Aisha radiallahu anha said Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked what is Ramadan. So he said Ramadan is a month أرمض الله ذنوب عباده فيه فغفرها لهم. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allah burns and destroys the sins of his slaves in the month of Ramadan, and he forgives them for it. So it also connects to Allah forgiving the sins in the month of Ramadan, because it leads to taqwa. The objective of fasting is so that you may achieve taqwa, therefore, as a result of forgiveness of sins. Then they have a fourth meaning that they mention, and that is, they say the Arabs, when they were deciding on the months, when they were naming the months, what they do is they name a month according to certain things that occurred in the month. So, for example, they name Shawwal. They name Shawwal. يشول بأجنابها, because the camels used to raise their tails in the month of Shawwal to show that they are fertile. So the Arabs name Shawwal. And then they name Sha'ban in Shi'ab al-Qabail, because the Qabail, the Arab tribes, they used to spread out and disperse in the month of Sha'ban. So they name Sha'ban. And they name then Ramadan, because it occurred in Serbia. One of the other meanings of Ramadan, they say it has no meaning. It's just a name put out. Lastly, some of them, they mention that every month that's first letter is Ra, you add the word Shahr to it. We'll touch on that in the next message when we come to it. So Ibn Taymiyyah alayhi rahmatullah, he says that sometimes Allah inspires certain people to name something a certain name. He says Allah inspired the Arabs to name Ramadan because it occurred in the heat. But then Ramadan also, Allah thereafter made fasting fard in Ramadan. So it caused the heat of the temperature. So it went in line with the name of the month. And then Ramadan causes taqwa from fasting, ibadat, and closest to Allah. So it also causes sins to be burnt out and destroyed. And then he says, so all of these things came in tandem. So he says that Allah sometimes inspires people. That's from Allah's wisdom, like how He inspired people to name Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam Muhammad, because the name, the most praiseworthy, fitted perfectly with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Thereafter, the last thing they mention Ramadan is the name of Allah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, لا تقولوا رمضان فإن رمضان اسم من أسماء الله. So that takes us to the next mas'ala, where the fuqaha say, وَالْمُسْتَحَبْ قَوْلُ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانِ كَمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ. So they say it's mustahab to say شهر Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, and not to just say Ramadan. Allah in the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, the month of Ramadan, it's the month in which the Quran was revealed. But they also say it's not makrooh, it's not recommended, but they don't deem makrooh to say Ramadan. And that's because in some of the ahadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, فَجَاءَكُمْ Ramadan. They said, في رمضان فتحت أبواب الجنة. In Ramadan, the doors of Jannah are opened. And this Ibn Hajar al-Haytami and other Shafi'i scholars, along with Hanbali scholars, mention it as well. And this aspect of Ramadan being a name from the names of Allah is one of the reasons why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لا تقولوا Ramadan. But Ibn Jawzi and other ulama say this hadith is fabricated. Ibn Taymiyyah says perhaps why there's a hadith like that is because in Ramadan, Allah yughnib the Allah destroys and perishes all the sins of the slave. So perhaps that fits out with why it can be a name of Allah. But if it's a name of Allah, then you cannot name something else with it, unless there's something to indicate it's not referring to Allah, which is Ibn Qudama's position. So Qudama says, لا يكره, there's a qareem, something to indicate you refer to the month of Ramadan, and then it's not makrooh to say so. Okay, the next mas'ala is going to be the ruling on congratulating each other after Ramadan. So the ulama touch on this mas'ala. This is from Shafi'i scholars and also Ibn Rajab from the Hanabil. He mentioned this mas'ala in the Ta'if. So they say some ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he used to give glad tidings to the Sahaba of the coming of Ramadan. So he used to say, قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَمَضَانَ شَهْرٌ مُبَارَكٌ. Ramadan has come and it's a blessed month. So he gave glad tidings to the Sahaba, coming of Ramadan. And so that's one thing. The other thing they say generally in Islam is a thing to be happy about good things from Allah. Good things from Allah, ni'mah of Allah, if Allah turns away from you any difficulty. So from there they say it is permissible. Some say permissible. In Mughni al-Muhtaj it says permissible. Others say it is actually recommended. It is recommended to congratulate each other on the coming of the month of Ramadan. Okay, so which words should be used when congratulating each other on the month of Ramadan? So there, the ulama say, basically, they say that any words that convey the good meaning count. And they say then words that can be used for Ramadan, specifically in Arabic, can be of two types. Either it comes in the Quran or Hadith, Ramadan has been described in this manner. For Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam described Ramadan as Shahrun Mubarak. So to say Ramadan Mubarak would be no question that that's the way to go. It's a permissible way to use. Other words that do not come in the Hadith, there is a question on whether they can be used. So a common example would be Ramadan Kareem. To say Ramadan Kareem. So the thing is, so some ulama have said that it's not permissible to say Ramadan Kareem. But the vast majority have said it is permissible to say Ramadan Kareem. And that is because the word Kareem in Arabic, the word Kareem is on the scale of Fa'il. Like if you take the word Bashir, Bashir means glad tidings. So now a word like that has Ism Fa'il and Ism Maf'ul. So that would mean that Ramadan Kareem would mean Ramadan is Mukram and Mukrim. Mukram Ism Maf'ul, Mukrim Ism Fa'il. So that means if we say Ism Fa'il, that means something is the doer of an action. And if we say Ism Maf'ul, it means action is done on that thing. So if we say Ramadan Kareem and it's action that is done on, then it means Allah is made this month Ramadan a month for His karam, a month for His generosity and His blessings. And it means that Ramadan is a month that is auspicious to people. So that would be a correct meaning. But then if you say Ramadan is Mukrim, Ramadan itself, and Kareem being on the meaning that it means generous, Ramadan itself be generous, and here some ulama accepted this, cannot fit. But it could perhaps fit. But the issue is some people you say to them Ramadan Kareem, they say Allahu Akram. You tell them Ramadan Kareem, which they take it in their head as if Ramadan itself is generous. They say, but Allah is more generous. So that's where it would kind of be correct. The other aspect that will make saying Ramadan Kareem correct is the fact of the meaning of Kareem. One of the main meanings of Kareem in Arabic means in kulli shay. It means something special, something unique, something amazing. So Allah has described many things as being Kareem. Bilqis salam said when she received the letter of Sulaiman alayhi salam, she said, Kitabun Kareem. This is a book, a letter that's come from Sulaiman that is Kareem. It is something special and amazing. And Allah described His arsh as being Kareem. La ilaha illa huwa Rabbul Arsh al-Kareem. Allah is the Lord of the arsh that is Kareem. So Ibn Kathir said it was described as Kareem because of its crystal manbar, because of how amazing it is, how amazing it looks. So therefore, Allah has described things that are lifeless objects as being Kareem. So Ramadan being described as Kareem is something correct. So we touched on this masala because a few people saying Ramadan Kareem is not correct. So just to mention the thing behind this masala and the linguistic aspect behind this masala. Then the ulama say, when it comes now between the 9th of Shabaan, they say it's mustahab to go out and seek the moon. They say it's mustahab to go and see them, to go and look for the moon. So the first question would be that, look, Ramadan is fard. So then the principle in fiqh is ما لا يتم الواجب إلا به فهو واجب. If something is wajib, then any aspect that is needed to fulfill that wajib, that aspect becomes wajib. If you say salah is fard, when you say something that you need to do for the salah to be completed and valid, is, let's say, covering the hour, covering the private parts. So if you have the private parts open for no reason, then the fard would not be achieved. Therefore, what's the ruling on covering the private parts? You say it's fard, because you need that fard so it can lead to the main thing, which is salah being done, which is fard. So since salah is fard, this thing that would make previous thing valid would also take the ruling on it, which would be fard. So fasting on Ramadan is fard. So the question will come, why do the fuqaha say it's mustahab? They give a few reasons. And that is, the first thing they mention is that Ramadan can be known that it's come in not only through slightly moon. There's another two ways that we'll know Ramadan has come. We'll discuss it just now. The second thing they say, since most people go out to see the moon anyway, then it's not a reason for us to make it wajib or fard. Then the next thing they mention is that Fuqaha mention this aspect of going out to see the moon because they say it's a feature of Islam. So they mention it so that people can implement this aspect of Islam. And even Anas radiallahu anhu, when he got to his old age and his eyesight weakened, he used to go out to see the moon. Not really, they won't really see it, but just to do this aspect of going out and seeing it, to see the moon. So then when they go out and see the moon, then we're going to say there's 2 or 3 things connected to it. The first thing is they see the moon. So that's the one way. There's three ways Ramadan comes in the Hanbali madhab, right? These masail are specific to the Hanbali madhab, and basically not really implemented by most people. We'll just touch on them quickly. And those aspects that are more practical, we'll discuss just now. A person who's traveling, one country starts, let's say, Ramadan, because it begins Ramadan, one country ends in another country. One country fasted 30 days, the next one 29 days. How must this person do? A person traveling the plane, be traveling longer than a day, 24 hours. How long does he fast, etc. We're touching it just now. But these masail are specific to the Hanbali madhab. We'll just touch on just for explanation purposes. So they say three ways to know the entrance of Ramadan. That is, number one, you see the moon when you go out on the 29th of Ramadan. So when you see the moon, the ulama mention that here a person does what? They say Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said the takbir three times, and then he said the following dua. Allahumma ahillahu alayna bil yumni wal iman wal amni wal aman rabbi wa rabbika Allah. Where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prayed to Allah to let this month be a month of barakah, a month of safety, a month of being filled with good deeds and actions. And then he would say, Milal khayri rushd. He said, this is a moon where Allah made this moon a moon that brings us goodness and glad tidings and blessings. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say, Amantu billadhi khalaqaka. I believe in the one who created you. And then he would say, Alhamdulillah الذي جاء أذهب بهذا الشهر أذهب بذاك الشهر وجاء بهذا. Praise is due to Allah who has ended the previous month and brought us this new month. And Al-Iqam narrates from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say when he saw the moon, Allahumma ahillahu alayna bil-amni wal-iman wal-salamati wal-islam wal-tawfiq lima tuhibbu wa tarda rabbi wa rabbuka Allah. And he would again pray that Allah makes this month a month of blessings and a month of peace and a month of safety. And he would say, ask Allah to grant tawfiq to good deeds. He would say, Rabbi wa rabbuka Allah. I say, the Lord of the moon, my Lord is Allah. So that's some of the sunnah the ulama mentioned that should be done when you see the new moon. So the second thing of knowing the month of Ramadan has come in. They say that either you go out that night. So you go out on the 29th of Shabaan, and either you see the moon. That's number one. Number two, if you don't see the moon, there's two aspects to it. Here's our last two ways of knowing the month of Ramadan. So either you don't see them. Here the Hanbali madhab says if it's clear skies. So they differentiate, the rule will change whether it's clear skies or whether there's something in the sky that prevents a person from seeing the moon. So we'll start with the first part of that is if there's clear skies. If there's clear skies and you don't see the moon, and the next day will be the 30th of Shabaan, and the day after will be the 1st of Ramadan. And then they're going to discuss the ruling of fasting on this day. When it's clear skies on the 29th of Shabaan. But we'll touch on that just now. The second aspect is that if there is something in the sky preventing a person from seeing the moon on the 29th of Shabaan, so they call it in وَإِنْ دُونَهُ غَيْمٌ أَوْ قَتَرٌ. So they call it غَيْمٌ قَتَرٌ. There's clouds in the sky, but they also include smoke. They also include smoke or some dust in the sky that prevents a person from seeing the moon. In this case, they call it Yawm Shak, the day when there's doubt whether Ramadan is entered. The reason for it is because you can't see the moon. So maybe the moon's there, maybe it's not there. So the Hanbali madhab, in the case where there's clouds in the sky, or a barrier in the sky preventing one from seeing the moon, then they call this day Yawm Shak. The other schools, now usually I'll mention most masail of the Hanbali madhab. If there's anything else, then I'll mention the other schools. But most people do the Hanbali madhab. So the other schools deem Yawm Shak, the day of doubt when there's clear skies. The Hanbali madhab says clear skies, you can most likely see the moon or not see the moon. But there's doubt when there's something, a barrier in the sky. So if there's clear skies, then it is makrooh for a person to fast on this day. And in madhab, they deem it makrooh for a person to fast on the day when it's 30th of Shabaan. It's clear skies the previous night. So it's makrooh for everyone to fast except for a person who usually fasts on such day. A person who maybe began the whole month of Shabaan fasting. But in fact, they mentioned three types of people. A person who his general practice is to fast, let's say Monday, Thursday, or every second day, and this day fell into his general practice. The other one is a person who fasts at least the last 3 days of the month, 3 days and more of the month of Shabaan. This person can fast on the day of doubt. The last one would be somebody who has to fast, let's say, Qadha, Iftaar, or something like that. But you cannot intend to fast the day of Ramadan. say if you intend to fast this day out of precaution that maybe it's Ramadan, even if it ends up being Ramadan, fast is not valid. Fast is not valid. Then the second thing is the day when there's something in the sky. You can't see the moon. So they say غيب, clouds or qatar, dust or something like that. They say in this case it's wajib. How many opinions of this mas'ala? The two main opinions that it's wajib and the other opinion is mustahab. So the dominant position of the madhab is that it is wajib to fast on this day when it's the 30th of Shabaan and there's been clouds or some barrier in the sky to see the moon on the previous night, which is the 30th of Shabaan. In this case, many madhab says that a person then is wajib on him to fast this day. It's wajib on him to fast this day. And if at the end of the month, let's say they fasted 29 days of Ramadan, including this day, and then they saw the moon. 29 including this day, then they saw the moon. And in that case, that day that was a doubt day, it would count as Ramadan, your fast would be valid. That's it. And if it happened that you didn't see the moon after 29 days, that's including this day, and you fasted another day, which was the 30th, you didn't see the moon. So then you have to fast another day. We're going to discuss the Mas'ala today, just now. But it will happen that you fasted 31 days. In that case, that first day that you fasted out of precaution would not end up not being from Ramadan. It means the moon was not in the sky. It was the 30th day of Sha'ban. Fast without it. So that's with that Mas'ala. And the Hanbali madhab have two evidences to this. Mainly the action of many of the Sahaba of Rasulullah. Let's not mention the evidences of this. The last thing to mention is the person who takes the rule of the day of doubt is also, they mention a person who is, let's say, they give examples of like a prisoner, basically a person who will not get access to outside to basically see if he can see the sky, or he cannot get access to anybody to find out whether or not the moon has been sighted. So this person, out of precaution, this we can apply to somebody who is also not a Hanbali. Out of precaution, he then fasts. And we're going to mention the person who is not able to, either is in prison or underground or something, is not able to find out the times of a day in order to fast, or the time of the month. What must he do? How must he try and figure out when it's Ramadan and how long to fast? What must he do? We mention it better child. So that's the two mas'ala they mentioned. And then they mentioned that if a person fasts on this day, and he fasts on this day, either they are mentioned either on the 30th of Sha'ban, or he fasts on the 30th of Ramadan, or he does not fast. He fasts on the 30th of Sha'ban. Let's start with that. He fasts just out of precaution that it's from Ramadan, without having any proof, without using anything shar'an that the Sharia approves for sighting the moon, then this person's first fast would not be valid. So as we said, that three things from knowing the day of Ramadan: either he fasts on the day of doubt, or he fasts because the moon has been sighted. So either one of those two cases he fasts. If he fasts out of another reason, out of precaution or something like that, but we'll touch on just now, there is the mas'ala of can you use calculations to determine whether the moon will be seen or not? Because the fuqaha mentioned a few mas'ala connected to the sighting of the moon. We'll touch on some of that tonight, and maybe sometime in the future we'll touch on more things. Hanafi method mentioned quite a few mas'ala on fasting on sighting the moon, because there's like times confusion on the sighting of the moon, and when is it valid and not valid, and a person fast for the sighting of a few people when it's been overall rejected in the country, etc. So the Hanbali madhab say that on this day of doubt, وَيُجْزِئُ صَوْمُ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ إِنْ ظَهَرَ مِنْهُ. They say this day of doubt, the 30th of Sha'ban, when there was obviously some barrier in the sky, the person fasted, and it happened to be from Ramadan. They realized the end of Ramadan, whether they fasted 29 days of Ramadan, excluding that first day, or they fasted, which would mean 30 in total. Then they saw the moon, that would mean that day was from Ramadan. Then it would count. It would be a valid fast of Ramadan. And they also say that in that case, first the people pray Taraweeh on that night. Then we say any person who wakes up the next morning, which means on the 50th of Sha'ban, did not know that of the news that there was clouds in the sky and the moon could not be seen, which means they have to fast on this day and they can't eat on this. They can't eat on this day. I mentioned حرمة الشهر, out of respect for the month of Ramadan, a person cannot eat in the day when they should be fasting. It's a mas'ala we'll touch on because it affects like a lady who, for example, is in haid and then gets clean. For example, a lady that is in haid and gets clean, not the opposite. We'll touch on it a bit later. A lady is in haid and then gets clean, or a traveler who was traveling then comes home. So he's no more traveling. He should in theory be fasting. This person, this rule will apply to you, and you mentioned the difference of the mas'ala of the fuqaha there. So then they say that most of the rules of a normal Ramadan would apply to this person who fasts on the day of doubt, except few things, like, and they to make a broad sentence that would cover what they include. That is all the rights of people. Anything that has to do with the right of people, not the right of Allah, but the rights of people. That those things would not, the time to perform the rights of the people would not come on the day of doubt, but the next night. So they say, like, a person is to pay a debt. They agreed that the debt be paid on the 1st of Ramadan. This night is the 1st of Ramadan, but out of precaution. So that night you do not have to pay the debt, but the next night. So they also include like talaaq. Talaaq, you say to your wife, I divorce you on the 1st of Ramadan. The divorce would not happen on the night of doubt, but the next night. Also, they say like ending of iddah, things like that, the ending of things like that. It will not take place on the night of doubt because those have to do with people. So it will take place the night after. And then you mention a mas'ala, and that is the mas'ala of seeing the moon in the day. You mention the mas'ala of seeing the moon in the day. So if you see the moon, now you fast, you did not fast. It was a clear night, on the night during the night of shabaan. The next day you saw the moon in the day. Whether it's before zawal or after zawal, there's no difference according to the family. It kind of could make someone think that perhaps the moon is there, so it's kind of Ramadan. It's not actually the 30th of Sha'ban. Or the other way, the 30th of Ramadan. So between the night of Ramadan, you went out to see the moon and you didn't see them, right? Then you went out and then the next day you saw them in the day. So then would it be Eid? Would you stop your fast and deem it Eid? So this, the fuqaha say no. In this case, seeing the moon before sunset doesn't count. And they said there's a couple of evidence that Umar radiallahu anhu saying, لا تفطروا حتى تمسوا. Don't break your fast until evening comes. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, يرى في آخر الزمان يرى الأهل فيرى كأنه ابن ليلتين وهو ابن ليلة. That you see the moon at the end of times, and it would seem like this is at night 2 or night 3, but in reality it's only a first night. It appear bigger. So that's why the Fuqaha mentioned for a person who tells his wife, for example, I divorce you when you see the moon, when you see the new moon of the month. If you see the moon before sunset, talaaq does not fall. If the moon before sunset, it does not. So only the sighting that is after sunset. Okay, then the mas'ala, now fuqaha speak on, that is the mas'ala of using telescopes. Do you have to see the moon with the naked eye, or can you use oculars or telescopes or something like that? Two opinions in this mas'ala. Some allow it and some don't allow it. But in certain countries, the committee of ulama in those countries have even permissible. So hence those countries would use telescopes, and they do not deem it as being opposing the hadith of sawm لرؤيته, fast when the moon is sighted with the eye. So they say it will not oppose that. It just makes something bigger, clearer, closer. It does not oppose that. Then they speak on a mas'ala, or let's say using calculations for the month of Ramadan to calculate the moon coming in, whether it be the start of Ramadan or the end of Ramadan, whether the moon calculation-wise. So here most ulama say you cannot use calculations. You have to see the moon with the eye. Except it's been narrated from Abdullah ibn Shaqiq, one of the tabi'in, who said you can use calculations. And he said, that the sun and the moon, they have specific points where their eyes is set. So basically it can be calculated. That's what his point was. This specific way that they orbit. But the majority of the ulama say the hadith are clear that the moon has to be sighted. So therefore, calculations from Ramadan don't count. And then the fuqaha speak about وَإِذَا رَآهُ أَهْلُ بَلَدٍ أي متى ثبتت رؤيته ببلد لزم الناس كلهم الصوم. So then they speak about the mas'ala when the moon is sighted. When the moon is sighted, does the sighting of the moon mean every person in the world, every Muslim person in the world who knows of the sighting, every person in the world who knows of the sighting, and if they deem it a valid sighting, they deem it a valid sighting, two things. Do everyone in the Muslim world have to fast, or does every country or every place that shares a horizon have their own sighting? So every place that does not share a horizon, they have their own sighting. So here, the majority of the ulama, in the past, they would say that each country, they would say that all the Muslims have one sighting. The moon is sighted anywhere in the world, then everyone has to fast. The madhab that opposes this dominant position is the Shafi'i madhab. But today, practice-wise, most people apply the Shafi'i method, which is that most countries have their own sighting. It's just when they cannot see the moon or something like that, it's actually not possible because of sunset and sunrise times when they follow another country's moon. The evidence for that is صوموا لرؤيته. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when you see the moon, anyone sees the moon, then everyone has to fast. Basically, that's how they interpret the hadith. And the Shafi'i madhab use another hadith, Sahih Muslim, which would basically indicate that everyone has their own sighting. So, connected to this hadith, the ulama mentioned a few scenarios. They mentioned that if a person وإذا رآه جماعة ببلد ثم سافروا لبلد بعيد فلم يرى الهلال به في آخر الشهر أفطر. They speak on a person who begins Ramadan in a place, and then he's going to travel to another place. Okay, so let's use it by example of, let's say, Saudi Arabia. Person begins Ramadan there, and he's going to come to South Africa. So in Saudi Arabia, they saw the moon one day before South Africa. So this person is going to start Ramadan day, and then he's going to come to South Africa. So in South Africa, they could have fasted at the end of the month, they'd fast 30 days. So he's going to have fasted at the end of the month until day 30 in South Africa with these people. But this person himself, he'd have fasted a day extra from the beginning of Ramadan, where in Saudi Arabia. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that a month is hakada wa hakada. He said 29 days or 30 days. The Islamic month is 29 days or 30 days. So can this person, then should he be breaking his fast? Because when it's day 29 in South Africa, it's going to be day 30 for him fasting because he fasted one day extra. So on day 30 in South Africa, does he have to fast, or is he allowed to not fast? Is he allowed to not fast? So here the fuqaha differ. Many madhab say that in this case a person will not fast. He will not fast. Hanafi and Shafi'i madhab say in this case a person fasts. It would be an effort fast, but he has to fast. So this person will fast 31 days. Many madhab, he does not fast on this day. Another scenario they mention is where a person starts Ramadan. Let's now switch it around, South Africa to South. So he starts Ramadan in South Africa, who started Ramadan a day after South. So when they say one in South Africa, it's day 2 in South. So when he travels there to Saudi, then Saudi see the moon after day 29. So on day 29, it's going to be 29 days of fasting in Saudi. But for him, he'd have fasted one day less because he started his fast in South Africa. So he's going to have fasted 28 days. So on the day after 29th day, which will be Eid in Saudi, what does he do? So they say this person is Eid with the people in Saudi. So he's fasted 28 days, he has Eid, then he does qada of one day. Another two masail they mentioned, and that is if a person starts fasting in a country and he ends his fasting in another country. So in both countries, they have fasted 30 days. But this person, because of travels and whatever, his Ramadan fasting would be 29 days. But the country started and ended both 30. In this case, he has to do qada one. Why we mentioned this mas'ala? Because 29 days is an Islamic month. The Islamic month will count as 29 days. So we'd have to fulfill that. But because both countries fast 30 years, fast one day. The other mas'ala they give is where the country he began with fasts 30 days. and the country where he ends it fasts 29 days. So for him, he'll fast 29 days. So does he have to do qada one day because the country he started at was fasted 30 days? Or can we say it suffices 29 days with the country he traveled to, and 29 days is a valid fasting month instead? We're going to come later, inshallah. You're doing qada. If you miss the whole month of Ramadan, how do you do qada? Do you do qada according to amount of days, or can you just fast in the month completely? We'll touch on that later, inshallah, in the upcoming lessons. So in that case, they say a person, he can fast 29 days and he to the country he's at, and he does not have to do qada. He does not have to do qada. So these are some of masail that we mentioned of a person in terms of number of days fasting if he travels to different countries. The last thing would be if a person is traveling and he's in the plane, let's say, and because of where he is, because of him traveling through different countries and time zones, his fast would actually be longer than 24 hours, and a day is 24 hours. So does he break his fast because 24 hours has been reached, or does he continue fasting? They say he continues fasting until he sees sunset, either from the plane. We'll touch on that when we speak about iftar, or how to determine iftar, and what is deemed as iftar, and what part of the sun must go down before we know is iftar, and if not that, the accuracy of timetables, etc. So they say this person, either he sees the sun going down because he's still in the plane, then he breaks his fast, or when he lands the countries, that's when they break the fast. Even if it's longer than 24 hours, then this person will break his fast then. It only break his fast then. Okay. So the next mas'ala that I mentioned is ويصام وجوبا لرؤية عدل مكلف ويكفي صبره بذلك. Okay, so this is another mas'ala that's specific to the Hanbali madhab, and that is the Hanbali madhab say that a person how many people, the mas'ala is how many people need to bear witness of sighting the moon before they can accept the moon has been sighted for the entrance of Ramadan. So they differentiate between how many people for entering Ramadan and for entering of Shawwal. So for Ramadan, they say one person sighting the moon. As long as he is baligh, then he will as long as he is baligh, then his testification would be accepted, his bearing witness would be accepted. And they specify وَلَوْ كَانَ أُنْثَى أَوْ عَبْدًا, even if it is a female in this case, one female, because generally فَرَجُلُ وَمُرْأَتَانِ, that's how many witnesses go, the one man and two women, but in this case one woman would count. So the fuqaha say this mas'ala, why one female would count here. They say it's min bab al-iftar. It counts as informing of something, not bearing witness. So the Taymiyyah mentions the difference between the two that regularly happens in the Hanbali madhab is when you have to inform the judge, the Islamic judge, that you heard something. Then one man counts, but two. If you have to inform that you've seen something, then one man, one woman counts. So this is a qaida that's mentioned throughout fiqh. So you're going to see when sometimes why one man and one woman count, this is why. Sometimes two women and one man, or two women in place of one man, this is why it count. So they say, well, أو بدون لفظ الشهادة ولا يختص بحاكم فيلزم الصوم من سمع عدلا يخبر برؤيته وتثبت بقية الأحكام. So then they say two things we're going to talk about here, and that is when they say it has to be a trustworthy man. They say it has to be a trustworthy man. So what kind of trustworthy? There are two opinions in the Hanbali madhab. Here we'll mention both opinions. So the madhab, the relied upon position of the madhab is that it has to be a person who you know is trustworthy, apparently and inwardly. You have to know for sure this is a person who's honest and trustworthy. The fuqaha sometimes differ, though they in some chapters they stipulate just apparent trustworthiness. In other chapters they say he must be trustworthy apparently and inwardly, outwardly and inwardly. So like in nikah, you have a witness for the nikah, you don't need a person who's for sure trustworthy inwardly and outwardly. Just if he seems outwardly trustworthy and you know nothing to oppose this, then him being a witness counts. But here they say it must be inwardly and outwardly. But the other opinion of Hanbali madhab is that it needs to be a person who is just openly trustworthy, and not even that. You just know from him speaking that generally doesn't lie, he's generally honest, and he generally doesn't mix up what he's saying. So that would go in more accordance with the hadith where Rasulullah was told by a Bedouin that he's seen the moon. Rasulullah asked him to say, like, do you believe in Allah and His Messenger? The Bedouin said yes. So Rasulullah then commanded people to fast. So they say here, Rasulullah not even know the Bedouin, but he accepted his testimony of seeing the moon. He didn't even know if he was a Muslim. He didn't even know if he was a Muslim. So why? And that is just the apparent outward trustworthiness, and the person is known not to lie, or if he's not known to lie, let's say it like that. This person's witness for the month of Ramadan would be accepted. He would recite it. This is for the entrance of Ramadan. And for the other months, the fuqaha say it must be two males, and they must specify, I bear witness that I've seen the moon of Ramadan. The moon of another month. For Ramadan, they don't need to specify words, I bear witness. Okay, so all the fuqaha speak on this where the people that fasted, there was kind of a mistake in the citing. So there was a mistake in the citing, they fasted 28 days. Now, it can be 29 or 30. So do they do qadha of 1 day or 2 days? So here the fuqaha said they do qadha of 1 day, that suffices. And it's actually happened, 30, 40 years ago. The people fasted 28 days by mistake. The qadha was 1 day. The qadha is supposed to be, in this case, 1 day. Then in the Hanbali method, they mentioned two situations where Ramadan would be more than 30 days. It would be 31 days or 32 days. So they say if Ramadan came in because of one witness, or because it was cloudy, some barrier in the sky. And then after 30 days, including this day of doubt that he's there to fast, after 30 days the moon was not sighted. And they say they fasted again. Because perhaps there was no moon there if there was a barrier in the sky, or something, or perhaps if it was one witness, the one person who witnessed, and in that case maybe he made a mistake. So in this case, they fasted an extra day, which would basically have meant that the 30th day of Shabaan, that they fasted on precaution was day 30 of Shabaan, not 1 to 1, and then they fasted 30 days. Then they mention a mas'ala which the fuqaha call min daqiq al-fiqh, it's from precision in fiqh. That is when they would fast 32 days. So here the Hanbali method say if the sighting of the moon of Shabaan did not occur because there was clouds in the sky or barrier in the sky, and in that case we deem Rajab 29 days. And then the month of Ramadan, they couldn't see the moon because of a barrier in the sky. So then they deem Shabaan also 29 days. Then they'd start on the 30th of Shabaan, which would be basically one Ramadan, day of Shakir, first of Ramadan. They'd fast then 29 days. They fast 29 days, then they look for the moon. They don't see the moon. They fast the 50th day. They don't see the moon. They fast 31st day. They fast 30 days. They don't see the moon. They fast 31. They don't see the moon. They fast 30. Why would it be 30 days? It's because we took 2 days, one from Shabaan, one from Rajab, on precaution. So what would happen is because after, if you did not take them as precaution days, it would be you fasted 28 days in Ramadan. But since we took them as precaution, it seems like we fasted 30 days, but we didn't see the moon. And then we didn't see the moon again. So we fast 32 days, which would end up, at the end, we'd realize that there was no moon for Rajab, there was no moon for Shabaan at the end of Rajab, and there was no moon for Ramadan at the end of Shabaan. So in that case, that's why they would have fasted 32 days. They would have fasted 32 days. Now the ulama mentioned, Ibn Taymiyyah mentions this, that he says that a month being 28 days, a month being 29 days, and then recurring, the next month 29, the next month 29, next month 29, or 30 days, 30 days, 30 days, he says this can happen 2, 3 or more months. It can happen like that. And Nawawi mentions from some ulama, I assume it's astronomers, that they say that it cannot recur 29 days, repeating, or 30 days repeating more than 4 times. So then the Hanbali fuqaha say what Ibn Taymiyyah, when it says or more, they say it basically means 4 times. Then let's try and finish the last couple of this. That is, they say if a person sees the moon of Ramadan alone, one person sees the moon of Ramadan. Okay, this is the last that I will touch on. So the person sees the moon of Ramadan alone. Then what happens here? He's supposed to go. It's possible to go to the Islamic court to say he's seen. So then they see the person, they see whether his testimony is acceptable, and then they announce Ramadan is starting the next day. So now what happens in a few situations where either he cannot reach the qadi, or he cannot reach the Islamic court, or he's reached the Islamic court and his testimony was not accepted. His testimony was not accepted. Why? Because of two things. But we're going to say in this case, if his testimony was not accepted because the qadi does not know whether he's trustworthy, or he couldn't reach the Islamic court. In this case, according to the Hanbali method, that anyone who hears him say he's like the moon, and they trust this person, in his honesty, his adil, his adil, they trust him, his religiosity and his honesty, then in this case, anyone who hears that he's seen, or if the qadi has not accepted his testimony based on not knowing the person's trustworthiness, in this case, anyone who knows this person's trustworthiness and hears that he's seen the moon, they can pass with him. But if this person's testimony was rejected because the qadi said he's not trustworthy, then no one is allowed to pass with this person. So this would apply in cases where, for example, when there's certain issues in the country of sighting of the moon, certain people have cited it, but their citing is not being accepted. The citing is not being accepted for correct reasons, like the politics, whatever reasons may be, then a person could apply this rule. But sometimes we mention masail here, and they are theoretical masail to know fiqh. Sometimes it's not to practice. But a person could practice on masail in ones where there's a difference of opinion to the people he's in, the country he's in, or the city he's in, when these masail are to his personal self. But then he does not go to others and mention this and cause disunity. In this case, for a person, if he truly believes, perhaps those people are honest, perhaps they're honest and they saw them, then in his private life, he can fast. That he shouldn't go out and then the country are fasting. He then shouldn't make a story out of this that everyone should be fasting or that this moon was sighted, etc. If he believes they were not validly, their testimony is not valid, accepted, perhaps he could, in his own personal self, apply this mas'al. And let's end there. If there's any questions, we can take the questions now after the hour is on. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to benefit us what we have studied and to teach us what is benefited us, or to teach us what benefits us. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions?
Bismillah. Take one question. You said on the 30th of Shabaan, if a person fasts out of doubt and he is not a regular person who fasts, then that fasting would be makrooh, right?
Hanbali madhab, it would be makrooh.
According to Hanbali madhab.
Hanbali madhab, it would be makrooh. That's if he fasts. He's not a regular faster, and it's the day of shak. It's not the day of shak. The previous night was clear in the sky, and they say it would be makruh, not haram. The hadith in Tirmidhi from Ammar radiyallahu anhu, where he says, "Man sama al-yawm alladhi yushakku fihi faqad asa Aba al-Qasim." Whoever fasts on the day where there's doubt, he's basically disobeyed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hanbali madhab say that this is from the last part. He's obeyed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is not from the kalam of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's from Ammar radiallahu anhu itself, which takes the hukum from tahreem to karah. That's one of the reasons. The other reasons is when the Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrates, fast when you see the moon. Okay, that's the main answer. That counts.
Sheikh, and when it is wajib, you said?
It's wajib to fast on the day of shak. The day of shak in the Hanbali madhab is if on night 29, people went to see the moon. After day 29, that will count as night 30. If it was either cloudy or dusty, there was a barrier in the sky which people could not see the moon. then in that case it would be wajib to fast the next day. The second opinion in the Hanbali madhab, there's many opinions, but the main two, Al-Iqna' mentions it, is that it's mustahab to fast on this day. And you have the intention that it's from Ramadan, then if it ends up at the end of Ramadan, that this day was from Ramadan, because you now at the end, it was on day 28, you saw the moon. It was day 28, night 28, you went to see. It's night 29, exclude the day of Shak. They saw the moon, that means that first day, which was Shak, was day 1 of Ramadan. So then it would count as it. So in that case, and they include a person who is not able to go out to see the moon. So he's basically a prisoner, or he's basically underground or something like that. They call him a makrooh in the books of fiqh. They say this person, he also has to fast on this day, out of precaution. We're going to discuss after 2 or 3 masail. We come to this mas'ala of the prisoner, we'll discuss in more detail. Anything else? Any other questions from anyone?
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
يا شيخ أبو صالح جزاك الله خير على الدرس. أنا بس عندي سؤال، يعني بعض من الناس في هذه المسألة يعني ينظرون أنهم إذا صاموا اليوم الشك هذا، فعندها يفطرون في آخر أيام، يعني آخر يوم في رمضان لا يفطرون. فلذلك هل يوجد شيء في ذلك؟
السؤال الصوت ليس واضحا جدا. سمعت أول السؤال فقط، سمعتك تقول صام بعض الناس، باقي السؤال لم أسمعها.
طيب هل تسمعني الآن؟
نعم.
نعم، في بعض الناس يعني مثلا في يوم الشك هذا هم يصومون ويحسبونه يوما من رمضان، وإذا أتى آخر يوم من رمضان يفطرون وهم يكونون في نفس البلاد. نعم،
هذا غير صحيح. لعله فاتك أول الدرس. قلنا يوم الشك عند الحنابلة غير يوم الشك عند المذاهب الأخرى. يوم الشك عند الحنابلة هو يوم 30 من شعبان، لكن إذا رأى الناس الهلال ليلة 30 شعبان بعد يوم 29 وكان في السماء غيم أو قتر، يعني منع الناس من رؤية الهلال، إذن هذا يعتبر يوم الشك. فهذا في آخر رمضان إذا اكتشفنا أن هذا اليوم كان من رمضان وصاموا هؤلاء صاموا، إذن صومهم صحيح. وإن لم وإذا صاموا هذا يوم 30 شعبان وكان السماء صحوا، كان السماء يعني لا يوجد مانع، فصاموا هذا اليوم، في آخر الشهر اكتشفنا أن هذا اليوم كان من رمضان، فصومهم ليس بصحيح. المفروض، وحتى لو كان صومهم صحيحا، المفروض أنهم لا يفطرون إلا مع الناس. سنتطرق إلى مسألة من رأى هلال شوال وحده، هل يفطر هو نفسه وهو فقط، أو لا بد أن يصوم مع الناس ويفطر اليوم التالي الذي يفطر فيه الناس ويكون يوم العيد عند جميع الناس. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الحمد لله.